awesome to see you. I am so excited to introduce Dr. Dietra Hawkins. She is from Equity by Design. She is a very accomplished woman. She's a published author, and she's worked with an array of nonprofit, government, and healthcare institutions for almost 20 years. And Park Pride was lucky enough to have her work with us earlier this year. She led some sessions for our staff and our executive committee to discuss diversity, equity, and inclusion. And she is just so welcoming and collaborative, and we just absolutely loved working with her. And we really feel like she understands that while parks are our focus, our mission is really about engaging and strengthening communities. And we just see the parks as a tool and a vehicle for you guys to work on behalf of your community. So we've really loved working with Dietra, and we thought it would be awesome for you guys to be able to hear from her and some of her expertise and the expertise of your peers. So I'm really excited for the rest of this workshop, and thank you so much for being here, Dietra. And with that, I will turn it over.
Thank you so very much, and really, it's really an honor to continue to work with you all with Park Pride and to see everyone here. Imagine that many of you have had a long day. I know my day started at 8. And so, first of all, I just want to say thank you for being here and for carving this time out. My intention as we talk about appreciative inquiry and for community engagement, and I've only put together a few slides because I really wanted to kind of give you an overview and then leave some room for you to ask questions. And then really we have planned more of an opportunity for you to continue to talk and kind of use what we're going to be presenting kind of going forward. So I also want to do a disclosure that I have a new setup that I've only been working with for about 2 days. So I've got like multiple screens, and although this is good because I can see a lot of people, things move around in ways that I don't always expect. So I'm going to, at this point, attempt to share my screen so that you can see my slides. So let me know, hopefully you will be able to see these. Do you see my slides? All right, now I'm gonna try and get to my slides. Okay, do you see the presentation? Or do you see,
I see your
like
presenter
the
view.
2 different sets of slides? You see the presenter view. All right, so I'm gonna try to, now do you just see slides?
Yes.
Okay, good.
Thank you.
Okay, so this has been fun. I'm like, where is everything? Trying to move things around. So let me say a couple of things before I jump into why appreciative inquiry and why here. I am trained as a clinical psychologist, and what that had led me to in my work, and I guess we're still needing to meet people a little bit here, is that I was really taught to listen to people, but not always believe them, okay? I was also, as a psychologist, doing work in health disparities. And in doing that work, I found that I was actually getting quite depressed because we were learning about a lot of problems, but we weren't in a position of actually solving or creating sustainable change. And so in that, I decided that I needed to find another way to do this work. And I learned about this approach called appreciative inquiry. And let's see if my slides are going to go through. And so this is a nice graphic of kind of what I was learning. I have really learned how to focus in on deficits. That's part of what we do with diagnosis. And when it really comes down to like health and wellness and community, we need to ask the question, what is already here? What's working here? So it's actually saying, let's be asset based. Okay, so this is a nice graphic of just saying, let's flip the questions that we're talking about. We can still address deficits, but we're going to first start off by asking a different question. So I if anyone is willing to do this, to raise their hand and read this statement for me. Is anybody raising their hand? Who is raising their hand? Jim, I think I saw Jim raise his hand. Will, yes.
Yeah, Williams.
Thank you.
All right. Appreciative inquiry, co-evolutionary search for the best in people, their organizations, and the relevance, or the relevant world around them. AI involves in a central way the art and the practice of asking questions that strengthen the system's capacity to apprehend, anticipate, and heighten positive potential.
Thank you so much.
I get the gold star for that, right?
You do. I wish I had my little stars on my screen, but it's not. Someone else. We're gonna give you. Everyone else is gonna raise their hand or give you a smiley face on that. So when we think about appreciative inquiry and why I like to start here is that it's actually based out of the business world. And David Cooper-Ryder is one of the founders that helped us think about this. So you might have heard of appreciative inquiry. And if you've ever heard of Horizon, then you've seen the outcome of appreciative inquiry. Sorry, I went backwards. But these questions, and we're going to be applying this to more of our everyday. So you can either refer to this as the 5D or the 4D cycle. And what I like to emphasize more than anything is that it's just learning how to ask a few questions in a different order, okay? So we start off by saying, what do we want to talk about? Like, what's the focus? What's important here? That might be one question. A second question is what should be. Now, what's not listed here is that you're asking those questions in relationship with each other. So not just on your own. We're actually doing this together in collaboration. Then we dream together what might be. We discover together what is giving life in an appreciative way, and then we work towards sustainability. So this all might seem like, pretty simple to do, but it's generally a flip on how we really approach many things in our lives. Can I get another person to read this slide for me? I have to scroll through 3 pages to see who's raising their hand. Let's see. Did I see anybody? Ansley?
Sure. AI deliberately seeks to discover people's exceptionality, their unique gifts, strengths, and qualities. It actively searches and recognizes people for their specialties, their essential contributions and achievements. And it is based on principles of equality of voice. Everyone is asked to speak about their vision of the true, the good, and the possible. AI builds momentum and success because it believes in people.
So many of us have heard of the good, the bad, and the ugly. Yes, can we all get a thumbs up on that? Okay, we're flipping that, okay? We're flipping that statement to the good, the possible, and the true. And the reason that we're doing that is that when we think about what we've learned in psychology and in especially positive psychology, is that it takes 5 positives to outweigh 1 negative. So if we are talking about the good, the bad, and the ugly, we are way in the ditch, okay? If we can learn to ask the questions about what is good, what is true, and what is possible, then we are actually moving in a direction that it will have a greater likelihood that we can sustain the kind of change that we're working toward. So this is probably the slide that most people find most helpful. And I want to do a disclosure here. I am a reformed problem solver. Okay, I went into school, I became a psychologist because I was good at solving problems. What I've learned in my work is that people do not want to be fixed. They want to be heard and they want to be believed. We have to do both of those, not just listen, but also listen in a way in which we are really embracing them. So all of us are familiar with this problem solving approach. This is what we do in most of our work every day, okay? What we want to introduce is really another way, which is to say, how can we embrace what's going on, change? How can we talk about what is without judgment, without a dichotomy of a good or a bad, but just what is? So what's the question if we have a glass of water that might be half full? What do we say about that? There are two things we say.
Half empty.
Anybody? Yeah, it's half empty or it's half full, right? That's the only thing we say about it. What we want to be able to ask is, what can we do with the glass? What can we do with what's in it? Right? We can ask a different question. And so it flips things into a different direction of what might be or what should be, again, what will be. We're just focusing on learning how to embrace instead of focusing on what we need to fix. So with that, we practice basically doing this. We practice saying, what is the smallest thing that we could do to have a really big impact? What do people really love to do here? What do the people show up for? So my favorite is when people say, well, they show up for a paycheck. We say, thank you. All right, because it's really not a problem if people want to get paid. Like we want to like really acknowledge that those are important things, you know. What's making a positive difference? What would a wish be? If you had 3 wishes for your community, what might those be? So we just learned how to ask questions in a way that moves the groups. There are a number of assumptions in AI. What I'm going to do is just share a few of them with you. They do build on each other, and the things that happens is when I talk about this, I usually spend probably 3 days actually pulling this apart with people because it is a bit of a flip. But the first thing that we do from this approach is to say that something in your community, so let's think about your park, something there is working. People are showing up for something. That's going to be our first thing. The next is whatever we focus on is going to become our reality. So that's that lesson that we've all learned. If you have kids and they get hurt and you distract them from what they got hurt from, because what they focus on, it will become real. But if you focus on being hurt, you'll continue to be more hurt, right? So just thinking about how we take this in a very practical kind of way. Our reality is going to be created in the moment, and there are always going to be multiple realities. So if you've seen that picture where there's a number on the ground and it's driven, it looks like that. From one angle, it looks like a 6. From the other angle, it's going to look like a 9. It's just about your perspective and where you're standing, okay? We need to be mindful of the questions that we ask. And in some places that I've been, we want to be mindful of making a statement versus asking a question. That's even part of what we're doing. So the cycle that we introduce in this is to put the person, to put the wellness of each other, to put our community in the center instead of putting a problem in the center. And then what we do is that we work to collaboratively do all of this, the same process, like over and over and over again. And in just about 2 or 3 minutes after we do our stretch bake, I think we're going to actually practice this. This is going to be what we're going to focus in on for the rest of the time together. The last few assumptions, just to review, is that when we have done something well, we are more likely to want to try it again. It's the basics of how all of us have ever learned how to walk, how any of us have ever learned any of our skills. So we carry forward those things that work. And from an AI perspective, we believe that you might as well carry the things that work for you forward. And if it doesn't work, you want to leave those behind. We also work to be relational, value differences, and to be mindful of our language, as you probably have noticed. So there's 3 kinds of questions we ask. And this is like the fire hydrant kind of presentation. We ask questions that take us backward to say, let's think of a time in which things worked really well. We ask questions that help draw us in. Let's think about the core things that have made a difference for us. And there are questions that will help move us forward, okay? So if we had 3 wishes, what would make a big difference here in this community? These are my favorite 3 anchor questions for almost everything that we do. What's helping or making a difference? What could be better or what's getting in the way? And what is keeping you moving forward? If you ask those questions in that order, you will really get a foundation for what you want to be able to do kind of moving forward. So that's our very quick overview of an appreciative approach. kind of boiled down into 15, 20 minutes or so. Love to just take a moment to hear any questions, or it's easier sometimes for me to just give an example if there are people who are wondering, or maybe you've been using it in some way and would love to share an example before we go to a break. I'm going to stop sharing my screen.
Those slides were really great. Hi, my name is Danielle.
Hi.
Hi, I'm with Washington Park in Decatur, but I was just wondering, are we going to be able to get those those slides? Will we be able to go over them? Because sometimes for me, like processing it later is much more helpful. Thank you.
Sure. Yeah, we can send a PDF of those. Mm-hmm.
We'll make sure everybody gets those.
What's resonating? Is this feeling like you've done it before? Or you're like, I'm not sure I know what that was. That was too fast.
We've said different words to say the same things. Your A, and your P were a different A, and P for me, but it's always the same kind of way to look at something, figure out what you're going to do it,
Mm-hmm.
and keep it positive.
Mm-hmm.
I agree with that entirely.
Hi, this is Winfrey. I think that some of us older folk have fallen into these where we knew that these were kind of things that worked for us by trial and error, by different things that we have been through in our lives. A lot of the things that you talked about are not just good for community activism and projects outside of your home, but in everyday relationships and living. That helps move you forward, that helps build relationships, that helps keep relationships. And I just think that, yeah, I'd like to have those slides as well, just so I can, put those up in the office on the wall. Those are really, really good. Yeah.
Libby,
Yeah.
I see you have your hand raised.
Who?
Libby.
Yes, I do. Hi. I think for me, a shift in my thinking had occurred at the end of your presentation, where I need to be thinking not just about the park, but about the larger community, which may be obvious to the rest of you, but it was, we're just beginning, and my focus has been, what can we do with the park? But really, I think if we started to talk with everyone about the neighborhood, with the park being a benefit, then we can really do even more than I thought we could. So thank you for that.
Absolutely. That's probably the best outcome we could have, is to have you think of that question, and going in and inviting people. So some skills that we'll work on, you're going to be doing next, is to invite people to tell a story about their answer. Okay, so it's one thing to ask the question. The next is that you're inviting them to do a story related to that. And the reason that that is so is that we hold on to stories better than we hold on to facts. So you'll remember, I don't know about you, but I tend to be this way. I can remember stories about people better than I can remember their names.
Yeah.
And so if you invite people very early on to share a vision and a story, then that will be what you can go back to, and will be your anchor on whether or not you've actually achieved what you're trying to achieve. And we want to, really listen and believe people, right? And when they share that story with us. So giving people enough time to really practice in doing that and being relational. So it's a little bit, sometimes many people are familiar with SWOT analysis, a strength, weakness. Okay, this is actually a flip on SWOT, okay? Because what we've done with that is that it's overemphasized still the areas that are problems. Okay, we have to have that 5-to-1 ratio. We have to increase more of what the strengths are, what the opportunities are, and what I actually define are what are the resources that we need. Resources defined as information and relationship.
Jan, did you have your hand raised?
Oh, actually, I don't know how to raise my hand.
Yes.
Oh, David?
Yes, I did. If I,
And then Jan. Okay.
is that all right if I go now?
Yeah.
All right. Thank you for the
Yeah.
presentation. I'm just trying to get a sense of the context in which you see us actually engaging these kinds of questions, because,
Mhm.
you know, gathering people together in my group, there are only going to be a very few who want to think this deeply and in this manner about our vision. And,
Mhm.
you know, they don't want to come to a vision meeting. So I'm wondering, how do you see the context of this happening?
Sure. So the way that I see these questions is that you learn how to ask them while you're walking with people in the grocery store. You're asking people about, you know, what's making a difference for you right now. You know, you're actually embedding these kinds of questions. I talked to someone who is working on a dog park. When you stop with people, if they, whatever they care about, you know, it doesn't really matter. But if you can get the story about it, then you can move in that direction instead of, you know, what do you think we need to improve here? You want to help with, what do you think is making a difference? Does that help?
It does. You're right. It's an orientation that has to come from inside. I tend to be the glass
So,
half empty.
You just
person.
learn, you practice.
So, yeah, I can definitely prove that.
Yeah, and it's okay because we've been conditioned to think that way. Okay, yeah. David had a.
Yeah, sorry, I don't have any raise my hand. I don't see that in here, but yeah, I was gonna say, Ditra, thank you. That's a great approach. In particular, I was wondering if you could illustrate how you know, often when we present ideas about the park, I think a lot of people go into complain mode, you know, because there's so many things that need to be fixed. And so how do you address that? Because people get stuck in that mode, and then you can take up time. What's your thoughts on that?
This is something I do now pretty naturally in terms of helping people have this conversation. But if you start off, so what I'll tell people is you're asking those three questions. What's making a difference? You know, or what do you think could make a difference? That could be one. What do you think could be better? Just give me one thing so you can help limit that a little bit. Or you could say, could I interrupt? Okay. And I just like to ask, if you had 3 wishes right now, what would they be? If we had everything we needed. Now, what will usually happen is they'll struggle with that. Okay. So in this whole process and why we've introduced this is that once you get to the place where you recognize that you've fallen into a ditch, you can actually say that. You can say that to people. You can, you know, acknowledge, I want to listen to you, but I'm finding that we've fallen into the problem ditch, you know, and I'm just curious about, you know, what's made you happy today? You know, you just flip it around. So it's learning how to do a flip. I mean, I know that I'm saying that in a, like it's easy and it's not necessarily at all. And I'm saying I am definitely in recovery as a problem solver. You know, I went to college, went and became a psychologist, spent many years to learn that nobody wants to be fixed. Because if you notice in those conversations, when you go into them and then you give a solution, they don't like that. They have an answer for why it's not going to work. I don't know. That's what I find. So if you want to avoid that, this is how we get into that to start with. Because you need a story about what do they care about.
True. That's great. Thank you for that answer.
Sure. Yeah.
I just wanted to bring that Victoria is also raising her hand, and then we'll move into our break after.
Okay.
that.
Hi, I'm Victoria with Shoal Creek 1. We are in the very, very beginning stages, And I think we probably moved a little bit past what I was going to ask. We have really struggled with new, young folks moving in and older people, and just trying to make that.
Thank you.
I first moved in 7 years ago. There was already an animosity shift between the newer folks and the older folks, and I just want to, I guess, self-proclaimed or made myself the bridge between the older neighbors and the newer neighbors, so that it's a cohesive transition that we do together. And also keep in mind, you know, what the older neighbors, you know, what they want. So how do you keep newer, younger folks mindful of, I don't know, I don't want to say stepping on the toes, because there's always going to be change and movement forward, but you don't want to, well, I don't want to piss anybody off, for lack of a better way to put that. You know, I want for everybody to enjoy this movement forward together.
Right.
How would you suggest going about wording that kind of conversation?
So, one, if we might be able to help you do a little bit more with that in a very detailed way. So a lot of what we do is very intentional in how we structure those conversations. And we start off by saying it's going to be messy. And we also start off by naming what's in the way, like we're in the tension. There is a tension here, okay? The other thing, though, is we want to be, what I try to say is invitational to who really wants to be there. So we try to do things so that we're only working initially, I'm just saying initially with the people who really want to be there, and asking why. What is your purpose? What do you really care about? And giving people a space to tell a story. So it's really important that when people say what they care about, it's not a word, but that there's a story to what it is and why it's important to them. And then that's your doorway in. Sometimes the doorway in is just the fact that someone has actually listened to your whole story. Now, what we do in that is that we give people 2 minutes to tell their stories. We limit the time, you know, so there's a way to do that, and that is still respectful. And in other work we do, so this is when we met Part Pride, we actually talk about the difference between creating dialogue and debate. And in our society, most of us know how to debate. We know how to pick out the problems. We know how to identify what's wrong. We know how to reply. We do not know how to listen, how to understand. We're just not very good at it. And I like to tell everybody this: being able to listen is not a skill that only psychologists can do. Okay, it's not just for therapy. It's really something that we all can do, and you don't have to have, you know, an advanced degree for. So I love the question you brought out. We want to name what those tensions are, and then be intentional about saying we need to do something. We want to create a space for that conversation. You can also, if you believe it or not, you don't just have to have a conversation. You can have people draw things out. You can have things that they're actually doing movement around. You can invite them in to participate in something so that they're connecting to each other. And then the last thing that I would suggest is that you can also do a very intentional process of getting people to go talk to each other and then come back with new information of stories, especially intergenerational.
Thank you. Well, we're going to be continuing this conversation, and we'll have some stories shared, and you guys will have the opportunity to think about what your stories are as well. So we'll do a 5-minute break, and we will come back, and then we will split you up into 3 separate groups.
Vision plan was coming from the city of Atlanta. It was being done by our friends at Parks and Recreation. We had a very, very vocal city councilwoman in Joyce Shepard, who wanted things done in that park. She's over a number of parks, so she has seen what works in some parks and what didn't work. And so we had a sounding board. Um, I just happened to be part of three major Pittsburgh the Pittsburgh Collaborative and the Friends of Pittman Park. So we have a core group of a lot of professional people who I could call upon to assist with what was needed in the park. Um, I found out that there were a lot of former attempts to get things happening in the park, but there was just no leadership. So there were a lot of things in the mix right now. Demographically, the community is changing. Gentrification is taking place. There are residents who used to live in the neighborhood who are returning to Pittsburgh because of the property values that were quite low just 3 years ago. And they're buying properties or repurchasing homes that they used to live in. There are a lot of people coming into Pittsburgh because it is surrounded now by multi-million-dollar developments. We have Pittsburgh Yard in Pittsburgh now, the Met at the corner of Metropolitan and Ralph David. Down the street, down Ralph David Abernathy, is the Georgia State multi-million-dollar development. And 4 minutes away is $1 billion Ben Stadium. So everyone is coming into the community, and there is one thing that they're looking for. They want a school. We have a new school there, but they want a really viable park. And Pittman Park, as of 3 years ago, had a swing set with 4 swings, and there was a wooden pavilion on the lower level. There was the swing set with the 4 swings, and there was a climbing frame. And that was all that was in the park. And it was just sad. Beautiful trees, beautiful green space, historic oaks, and the recreation center was there. It has a basketball court indoors, but Pittman Park has a very active youth program. So after school, children are coming from all the school districts, those who live in the park, and because a lot of those children do not get hot meals at the end of the day. So when the children are inside of the recreation center, the 300 or so young athletes and young men who want to play basketball are not allowed in the center. So there were things that just needed to be fixed. So we made a list and we engaged the community. And because of the 3 organizations, the Pittsburgh Neighborhood Association, the Friends of Pittman Park, and the Pittsburgh Collaborative, I was able to present to them our plans for the park and ask their surveys. These are 5 things, put them in order 1 to 5. What is it that you have to see and have to have right now in the park? And I was able to have a database that I could work from. For 2 years now, we have been working just concentrated efforts to bring the park up to par. And as of last year, we had a $50,000 grant from Park Pride and Home Depot. We were able to install a beautiful, now 10 new picnic tables. We've had the bench taken off of 2 sides of a couple of the tables so that senior citizens in wheelchairs can roll right up to the tables. We have a huge new swing set. The swing set has swings in it that are for some of our physically challenged children who are in the community. We have 3 of the largest grills, industrial grills, were installed just a few months ago. Everything happened just before COVID, so we haven't even had a chance to do a ribbon. A rib park is all of a sudden alive. There are people, even during COVID, that are coming up there on the swing set. It's situated in a bed of that mulch, and the ditches under the swings from the kids swinging. Yeah, it's just amazing. So we have a rake up there. We have new trash cans to facilitate keeping the park clean. We have a core group of people from the community who go every 2 weeks and just do a follow-up to the park people who are supposed to be cleaning up the park. So we have a group of people who decided it's our we are applying for a new grant, a legacy grant, to create an outdoor basketball combination basketball and volleyball court, and that was number one on the list. Of the 300 some odd young men and boys that come to the park, we had 75 people that answered the survey saying, please, can we have something for us? Because, you know, there's nothing in the park other than that wooden pavilion on the lower level, and now the new young people, and that caters to seniors. But we want the park to be something that everyone wants to come in and enjoy. So as part of our vision plan, we want to replace some of the things, the amenities that were in the park. And basketball court was one. There was a tennis court. There is a football field, but sports were taken from Pittman Park because of the flooding and the issues with the drainage, which Watershed Management is working on right now. So 5 seconds. Okay, how is that possible? Okay, ask questions, somebody. Is that right?
Kayla probably shortened the session to keep us on track.
Oh my goodness. Okay, so I'm not gonna get to hear any questions unless somebody has one really quickly.
How are you successful at raising money?
Yeah.
Our success in raising, we're brand new, and we've had 2 fundraisers that happened just before the game night at the Pitt Recreation Center just before COVID hit. So that was our very first attempt at a fundraiser. Actually, it became more of a feeding.
How did you, did they donate or did they pay to get in or pay to play the games?
I don't know, it looks like only some of us were taken out of the breakout room.
Well,
I think we were all supposed to be moved to the main, back to the main.
The session?
It was about 5 minutes short because
Yeah.
we had gone over from the.
Okay. Because I timed my speech and I didn't get a chance to take questions.
Oh no, I'm so sorry.
Well, I'll just share that one thing is that we've got our Friends of the Park Facebook page, which is designed to help you guys network with each other and learn from each other. So that would be a great place to continue the conversation after this meeting. We want it to be able to happen outside of these workshops as well.
It doesn't have to end tonight.
So we'll
That's a good point, Elizabeth.
yes, keep it going.
All right, so I think everybody is back. So just take a note here of the group discussion. So I'm thinking back to what Dietra has shared about appreciative thought processes, as well as what you heard from the community members, Billy, Gwen, and Winfrey, as well as the experiences and the success that you've had already. We're going to get into groups of about 4 to be able to discuss these questions for about 5 minutes. I'll give you 7 minutes and we'll break up into that very quickly. And so thinking about what is working, what could be, and what could be better, and what moves you forward. So like I said, you can take a mental picture of that, but I also will type that in and it will broadcast to you. So I'm going to open all of the rooms now.
Hey everyone.
Hi.
Oh great, there's the questions. Good. Sorry that session got cut a little short, but I'm gonna stop talking now and you can see the questions at the top. You should be able to if you want to start discussing, but I can help prompt, or if you have questions for me, please feel free to ask.
Oh, the questions went away.
Yeah.
Oh no, I can copy and paste them into our chat. That's
What was it? What's working?
What is working, what could be better, and what moves you forward?
And what's not?
And I will copy and paste them. And you don't have to go in that order, and you don't have to talk about all of them. If one question, you know, makes the most sense for you, feel free to go. Sorry about the dog.
What could be better? What moves you forward? Okay.
Right. Those are the three.
Okay.
I struggled. I'm Jan Costello, Hairston Park in DeKalb County. And I'll just start with the first question, what is working? Because it really stumps me right now. It's, you know, we haven't been able to have meetings. I don't count the Sooner Park. It's been hard to work, but we're still going forward with a plan. And I have to credit our president of the Friends group for that, Gwen Saunders. But for us, then, what is working is that we still have a powerful vision and a passion for the park.
I'd say that's the same for us. I mean, we've got dedication, and we have, particularly with COVID, we've got, and schools being closed, but we've got a strong group of young kids who live in our neighborhood and our equipment is just dangerous. And, you know, for us, not being able to go to school and not being able to get energy out there, the kids are dying for a place to go. And it's just so evident that we need to make some changes so that there's a safe place for them to go. And, I mean, trees are falling in our park, and I mean, it's just changes need to be made so that there's a safe place. The pandemic is just a driving force for us to really just move this thing forward so that they are eventually, when we can go back safely to parks, there can be a place for them to play.
And where's your park, Brooke?
Underwood Hills. Yeah.
So my name's David Lloyd Davis, and I'm with the Friends of Cascade Springs Nature Preserve in Southwest Atlanta. What's working for us is the people around here want a reason to get together, drive outside of this community and go to Piedmont Park or one of the bigger, you know, everybody wants to be at a big, beautiful, well-managed park. But, you know, people still want to be local and know people in the community and have friends and meet them someplace. And so that really is what's working for us, is people are driven by that need to, and plus they know that this is such a unique park that they kind of want it to work. They want things to work out, and they know that eventually it's going to be a beautiful and it's got great bones. And so that's kind of what's keeping people, you know, energized. And so we're sort of riding that crest along even through the pandemic. And the pandemic is crazy. People are over there like I've never seen it, you know. So it's really drives people. That's what's I think the last question is what's moving us forward. What's moving us forward is that we know that this park is a gem, and we want to make it the best it can be.
I mean, it's so great to have a resource and to have green space in your neighborhood, because there are so many
Right.
that don't have it. And to have that in your neighborhood, whether you're young or old or new to the neighborhood or have lived here for 1,000 years, to have that opportunity to walk over to some place and see somebody you know is just so nice.
Yeah, it's a privilege in a way.
Mm-hmm. And our park is a little bit different in that it's a draw for many different neighborhoods. There's only to it, but there are people there all the time, especially now in the pandemic, and it's got 33 acres, 2 little lakes. You know, I just feel really, it's really important to me that we try to protect that area.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, it is important to protect it, that's for sure. We have a ton of trees in ours. I don't know, do y'all have lots of trees in your park?
Ours is a forest. It's a 125
Mm-hmm.
acre forest. We want to protect our trees. That's nature's
Yeah.
priority. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's
Well, looks like it's closing.
Right. It was nice to hear.
And then we were gone.
We seem to be back. Sorry, I didn't realize I was on mute. I don't think that was an intentional hand raise. So I know we only have 4 minutes left, and I definitely want to honor all of your time and reiterate Elizabeth's point, and we'll send it out in the follow-up email about joining the Facebook group so you can ideas with everyone. And I know that one of the last things that we wanted to cover in the slideshow, which I will share my screen and very quickly just having you think about what's next. And for the grant applicants, you know that a community engagement plan is part of the application, but thinking about what your plan is good for anyone in any of their projects. I really appreciate the response.
The park, you're able to see the playground from the street now. So it drives a lot of people down into the park. They're now able to see the fitness equipment and participate in that. The park it's on a 33 acre. We have a beautiful lake and a lakefront that's out there. It's just the park is just a gym. During our community cleanup, we discovered that there was another lake that was back there. So we're in the process now of working with the Parks Department to get that lake cleared and get some trails in there. The group worked tirelessly trying to, clear trails and just make the park better for our community. It's just great to see so many people out there. One of our problems that we've had, and I guess it's a good problem, but the park only yields about 30 parking spaces. And at any given point, we can go down and there's at least 50 people that are in the park. So that's something that long-term that we're actually working on. We are now looking to receive a grant. We've applied for the grant to include a serenity garden at the park, and that will invite just people to come in and enjoy nature. We're also looking to install three pergola swings in front of the lake. So just trying to make the park an inviting place for people to be in a safe environment. And that's pretty much it. Anybody have any questions or?
I just want to chime in real quick, Danielle. I see you have your hand raised. But in my dyad earlier, I was actually paired with somebody in Gwen's friends group. And Gwen was referenced as someone who can be called on. And what was loved about you and somebody else in the Friends group was that even when things are difficult, because progress really is like this, that you are always focused on what good is happening and calling people in. And that just seemed like a perfect example of exactly what Dietra's talking about. So I just had to share, and that's exactly why we asked Gwen to speak today, because I personally have witnessed some ups and downs in Hairston Park's journey. But Gwen always remains positive, engaging others, is always very grateful for people's time and energy. So I think you're a great example. So I'll stop talking now. Keep going with
Thank you.
answering.
I'm one of
questions.
those that see the glass half full. So Danielle, you had a question?
Yes. Hi. Thank you so much for sharing. It's a big story. And I feel like I might have been in a group with you a while back when I was talking to you guys. It was you and someone else about your grant and how you're doing more exercise equipment and stuff like that. I think that's really amazing. You had mentioned that you had a meeting with Commissioner Bradshaw. How did that develop? Because I have had people suggest that, but I have no idea how to start that. And it would be great to know how you did that so successfully.
Well, with actually, I am a part of another organization, and we were actually meeting about streetscapes that's in our community. But Commissioner Bradshaw is pretty accessible if you just reach out to his Chief of Staff, Alicia Brooks, and I can make sure you get that information, and she's very responsive.
Do you have any tips generally about interacting with your government officials and how to sort of get them bought into your vision? Because when David Davis over there was talking about people getting stuck in what's wrong, I think maybe some of you would agree that our government folks can be some of those people. I didn't say it.
Well, I don't have I mean, there's no magical way. It's just if I try to speak from the heart, and I let them know, because even when we had the initial meeting with Commissioner Bradshaw, I asked him to help us help him to help us, because we're all in this together, and we're trying to make our community better, because if our community looks better, it looks better for our commissioners. So I usually just make sure I, pose it that way, and just even with our commissioners, as well as some of our community members, just shoot them an email or text every now and then, just say, hey, I was thinking about you. Is there, anything that you need us to, be mindful in the park, or, just any general, questions.
Elizabeth, Gwen, thanks for your story. That's really that's really a great story, because I think it's similar to a lot of the journeys that we all have. Elizabeth, you talked about government and interaction, and Gwen, you mentioned you had a relationship with your commissioner. The reason I was speaking up was because one of the things that I think would benefit a lot of people in our position is understanding process. Because I think, when you have community members that are motivated and they want to get involved and they want to make some changes, a lot of times they don't really understand how, what the steps are to even get, money or to get different organizations engaged. And it takes a lot of time sometimes to just get to a point where you're in a group like this, and I feel like I'm sort of evolved. I'm so much more evolved from where I was when I started, because, I'm a different person now. I have so much more information. I know so many more people. But I mean, looking back, maybe there's a way that this can all be documented in a spreadsheet or some kind of diagram, so that we can all say, okay, you're here, you're here and you need to be here. You know what I mean? Because
Yeah,
we don't know what the process is. That's
and
all.
I will share that that is something that we have been working on and are working on. And it's challenging for us too, because government procedures change, people change, but we completely hear you. And documenting procedures is one of our priorities right now. I think we only have a couple seconds left, but if anybody has one last question, or I would just say, Gwen, do you have any advice on keeping people enthusiastic when they get discouraged?
Well, just always just keep a positive, outlook on things, and just keep your eye on the prize. Lean on Park Pride. They have been very helpful. Even this process that we're going through right now is thanks to Park Pride, because and I see we only have 44 seconds left, but one of the issues that we had is there was a disconnect between the Parks Department and the Friends group, because we're getting information from the Park Pride and we're super excited, and then we find out that our hands are tied with the with the Parks Department. So I just encourage everyone just to continue to attend all the workshops, because they're doing a great job in making some changes that I'm able to see, because it has been a rough journey.
Thank you so much, Gwen. That warms my heart. So I'll see you guys in the main room in 2 seconds.
Can everybody see me okay?
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm just getting off work, so pardon me for my tardy. But I'm super excited to tell you a little bit about my park, how I became a park ambassador, and what is Maddie Freeland Park like? Where is it located? Maddie Freeland Park is a park that came about through the legacy of Miss Maddie Freeland. She was a community member for many years. Several generations of her family resided in the English Avenue neighborhood, and she was like the grandmother of the neighborhood. So she was known for taking in individuals that may have been homeless or facing a hardship, or just looking out for the children that played in the street. She was a part of the community and watched it move from a thriving neighborhood to a high crime area, and different concerns for unsafe and dangerous situations in that neighborhood. But she didn't leave, she stayed, and she manned her corner. And that's where the park is located now. It's on the corner of Dow Vidney. It's at a four-way where you can access the park going on Griffin or Dow Vidney, or cutting in between a home. The park is in between 2 blocks, and it's a green space, so it's relatively small for a community park. But of course, it's big to us, the residents that live there, that's been using it. And it's kind of a staple for the neighborhood, for a safe place. So throughout the summer and sometimes in the fall, we host events, and we do block parties. We take up the whole block and we do a cookout. We have host jazz festivals in the park, as well as a Taste of English Avenue, where residents come and bring their staple home foods from the community. We have individuals that make cakes. One year I did lemon pepper wings and won the Taste of English Avenue. So it gives us a chance to be able to do a little lighthearted competition, but share some of our staples that we feed to our families and share with our residents. How I became a community advocate and a park ambassador is that I have children. And in our community, our children did not have a lot of safe places to live. Safe places to play while we were residing in the neighborhood trying to live. So I got concerned one afternoon watching children play in the street and almost seeing a little boy being hit by a car. And so I advocated, and in the midst of me raising my 19-year-old son and my 7-year-old daughter, I wanted them to have a playground to play in that's in their sector of the community. So I had the privilege to advocate for us to get a small swing set. And that swing set has recently been knocked down. I'm very excited about it because it'll be replaced with an actual park. So it's a lot of renovations going on in our neighborhood right now. But we were able to keep a promise to our residents that we would have a park. in the planning phase, going out to do surveys, a lot of residents didn't think they needed a park. Like, what you want a park for, Miss Billy? And I'm like, we need a park. Like, our kids need a park. The elderly people in our neighborhood need a park. Residents need somewhere to sit. They need somewhere to gather as a family. They need somewhere to host a cookout if it's too big for the residents' living quarters. So in the midst of doing all that, a lot of our community members started coming out to the block parties and coming out to the backpack drives and coming out to see, hey, what's this to do about a park? And Park Pride hosted a vision board where they showed the residents what the park would be. So after our residents saw, what's to come in the future, we got a lot of participation. So we've been a part. We've been able to win a grant. We were featured on the news. We are currently up for a couple of more grants, and we're working as a community.
I'm happy that we went with what the kids were going for, because I just want this cutesy playground. Just, it just looked good, and the kids had something else in mind. It was very colorful. The park, you're able to see
what you saw as the issues with the park and what you want the park to be. Well, at the same time, we were doing a major park plan. And I've got notes here, so I'm pulling my next page. The vision plan was coming from the city of Atlanta. It was being done by our friends at Parks and
a jazz festival that we had when we were up for a grant, and the news people came out to film us, and we were actually having an event that day. So I can tell you a lot of work goes into the events. I've barbecued probably over 5,000 hot dogs in the course of a couple of summers, and stepped it up last summer and started doing chicken and other foods. But our people come out. But we have a sense of inclusion in our park. We welcome the homeless. We keep a safe space for the children. We keep that separate. The homeless can walk up, get their meal, and keep going. If they choose to fellowship with us, they have to do it in the correct manner. I pride myself on being very, very, very militant about keeping the children safe in the community. I have a child. She has sensory processing disorder, and I try to make sure as a parent, I'm being just as efficient with my daughter that I am with all the children in the community. We've hosted backpacks. All the food, beverages, and stuff we give out is free. We don't charge anyone anything. We just ask them to participate, come out with a good spirit, and be willing to fellowship. So that's kind of what we do in the park. I'm very excited about our community getting a new park. We are in the middle of 3 parks: Lindsay Street Park and Katherine Johnson Park. All of those parks were built out before us. We never felt left behind. Our park is small, it's unique. It was a green space first. It was a space that was donated to the community through an owner, but we had so many different people that own so many small sectors of that little bitty park that Park Pride and the Conservation Fund and different entities had to come in and help us to purchase and acquire that space. And we're currently going through the transition of what it looks like to be a open, wide community park, and we can do whatever we want, to transition into a city park where we have to request for the space, have our boundaries of how we keep it up. So I'm learning how I would be able to pick up trash and keep the park clean and keep my role as a park ambassador, but move up as the park ambassador to work in partnership with City of Atlanta. So I'm working with Lindsay Street Park, Katherine Johnson Park, and other parks to find out how I can become more efficient in the build out process so I can learn now versus waiting for later. So it's just exciting. I mean, I'm talking to you right now, leaving work. I work at the Atlanta Children's Shelter, and I'm just really passionate about children, safety, having a sense of community inclusion, and just giving our children in our neighborhood a chance to be normal. You know, have a park like people down the street, you know. So that's why I do what I do. And I hope I'm living out the legacy of Maddie Freeland well. Her daughter is a doctor. She was raised in the neighborhood. She went to Clark, Atlanta. She still patronizes the park now. Most of her elders have passed on. And, you know, I get a chance to meet Miranda. We go to events. She's like family. So I never met Miss Maddie Freeland, but I'm a part of a church that she was a member. And we like to, you know, keep our members' legacies alive, especially if you were doing the right thing, you know, and being a staple in the community and holding up other residents at their time of need.
Thank you, Billy. Does anyone have any questions for Billy?
That's a great story.
Thank you, sir.
I'm a Clark Atlanta alumni myself.
So am I. Class of 95. Yay.
So actually, I do have a question, because I mean that's amazing what you all do for the park. So how involved are your neighbors? I mean, are they really active as well? And you're talking about giving everybody food. Like, do they all help you pay for that? Because that could get very, I don't know.
Last year we were able to get a small stipend and a grant from Park Pride with Miss Kelsey. And sometimes over the years, they'll come up. If you run out of ice, they'll replace it. But a lot of people will come up, wash their hands, put on some gloves, put on an apron, and take over the grill, or go pick up trash, or take my place in watching children on the water slide and stay there until it's over. So we, in that small sector, we have grown to appreciate that green space and take responsibility for it. So everybody's not financially stable, but they may give their time, their energy. They'll come and help me break down tables, pitch up tents, and help. Even my children, they are so prone to just coming and help me throw up that tent and go about their business and play. So it's just normal now. When they see us open the Maddie Freeland house, because we have a house that was built out by the Blank Foundation. When we open that small house, it has a restroom, a kitchen, a living room, a storage closet, a dishwasher, refrigerator, and things like that. And it's used for meetings. When we open that house, everybody knows that it's a park event. And people just start coming out. We cut on the music, play the speakers, start setting up the tents. People just come out. They play games, horseshoe, cornhole, relay races. We block off the street. People know when they see the cones up to go around it. So it's just like, it has become normal. So I can't wait for the park part to go up, because people in the community will realize that we kept our promise. We did what we said we came to do. And that's the part I'm waiting for. I'm waiting for the outcome. I'm waiting for the children to run through and play with the equipment. I'm waiting for some of the elders to say, we got our park.
I just want to let you guys know we have a 1-minute warning. So if anyone else has any questions or thoughts for Billy before we break out into our smaller group discussion.
Well, thank you for letting me talk to you this evening, and thank you for waiting for me. And I hope that in all your park endeavors that you're able to be successful.
Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much.
Thank you. You too.
Yeah, thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks, Billy.
You're welcome.
So everyone should be slowly joining us back in the main room, and I'm going to give you a quick overview of the next section, which will break everyone up into groups of about 5 with the discussion questions that are currently on the screen. As soon as it comes up, there we go. And I will send you a message with these, because when you go into your groups, I'm not able to broadcast the slides. However, I will be able to broadcast a message to you. And once everybody gets back.
Kayla, did we shorten the session?
It was about 5 minutes short because we had gone over from the
because I timed my speech and I didn't get a chance to take questions.
Oh no, I'm so sorry.
Well, I'll just share that one thing is that we've got our Friends of the Park Facebook page, which is designed to help you guys network with each other and learn from each other. So that would be a great place to continue the conversation after this meeting, because we love what's happening here. We want it to be able to happen outside of these workshops as well.
It doesn't have to end tonight. That's a good point, Elizabeth.
Keep it going.
All right, so I think everybody is back. So just take a note here of the group discussion. So I'm thinking back to what Dietra has shared about appreciative thought processes, as well as what you heard from the community members, Billy, Gwen, and Winfrey, as well as the experiences and the success that you've had already. We're going to get into groups of about 4 people. And you are going to be able to discuss these questions for about 5 minutes. I'll give you 7 minutes, and we'll break up into that very quickly. And so thinking about what is working, what could be, and what could be better, and what moves you forward. So like I said, you can take a mental picture of that, but I also will type that in and it will broadcast to you. So I'm going to open all of the rooms now. Jan, I see you're still in the main room. Oh, there we go.
And so I'm like behind the stadium, the Mercedes-Benz Stadium. What's working in my park is me, actually, because I really get out there and do the work. What could work better is my community engagement and getting my community involved. I mean, I've been doing this now, I guess, what, Kayla, for 3 years? And I still have a hard time. Nobody comes to my Park Pride meetings. My friends are the group meeting. I'm still working on getting those folks. So I actually did go to the neighborhood association meeting this past week to talk about the park and what we're doing. I'm hoping that helps get my folks involved. And what was that last one, Kayla, since you're on our room?
What moves you forward?
The new love for the park and being out there in my green space. That's really what keeps me out there. It's my own personal drive just to be. And the park's next door to my house. So you can't have your park looking bad when it's your view of the world. That's it. I'm done, y'all. Next.
Well, I guess I can introduce myself. My name is Donnie, and I'm, my organization is, it's Atlanta Storm. We're a women's flag football organization, and we're looking to get involved with the English Park community. Bring flag football in that area. We want to help with the football field over there to make it, more usable. So I'm just kind of like in this group to learn and find the right information that
Who's next?
Well, we have how many people in our group?
There's two others left that haven't gone.
Yeah, I already did my
Heather or
thing.
Stephanie.
I haven't gone. Can you, I don't know if I heard the question. I'm sorry. Could you please repeat the question?
So just thinking about everything that we've covered tonight, you know, you can either answer what's working, you can think about, you know, what could be better, or also, you know, what moves us forward.
Yes, thank you for that. I think my name's Heather Sheets. I live in Underwood Hills. We're right off the 75 in Howell Mill. I would say we have a really engaged community. There's a lot of families with kids in our area, and we have had the same park equipment for about 15 to 20 years, and we're very grateful for that. It is deteriorating, however. There's been a lot of great use on it, which I think is a good thing, and we're so grateful for having equipment in a park. Yes, you can have more in a minute. And you know, I think it's great engagement from the community. And the other question was what could be better, and I think just getting the resources and the people to help make everything happen. So it's
And then we were gone.
We seem to be back. Sorry, I didn't realize I was on mute. I don't think that was an intentional hand raise. So I know we only have 4 minutes left, and I definitely want to honor all of your time and reiterate Elizabeth's point, and we'll send it out in the follow-up email about joining the Facebook group so you can continue to have these conversations and share these ideas with everyone. And I know that one of the last things that we wanted to cover in the slideshow, which I will share my screen, and very quickly just having you think about what's next. And for the grant applicants, you know that a community engagement plan is part of the application, but thinking about what your plan is good for anyone in any of their projects. I really appreciate the response that Dietra gave earlier, that this sort of engagement and inquiry should be a part of the conversations that you're having with your community at any time. So going back to the beginning, when we answered that poll question about how have you built relationships with your community members recently, Many of you said that you invite people to tour the park. Others say that you share your stories. So thinking about what are those opportunities so that you can develop a shared vision. I know that Victoria had asked a question before about how to bring together the different generations and the new people as well as the legacy residents who are in the community. So this is just some additional things to think about. In terms of building relationships, we talked about at the very beginning, what you love about your go-to group. So thinking about that perspective, what is it, who's one person that you could bring into that go-to group that you could do that stretch with to start building that core group into a more robust representation of your full community. And lastly, we will be sending out those slides that Dietra had shared and using those to help develop those guiding core questions as you're thinking about your projects and the work that you're doing and the benefits for the community. And as Libby said that, it helped her connect that it's not just about the park, but it's about the overall community. So in closing, I am going to open up the last poll. And while you guys are responding to that, if anybody wants to share something that they heard today that they're gonna walk away with. So I'll open the floor for that. So something that you can take with you that you'd like to share with everyone. Kiana, would you like to share? Is that why you're raising your hand?
Yes, I
All right.
liked when she said it would be more beneficial to have dialogue and not a discussion. Am I getting that right? Okay, yeah, I like that. I loved it as a matter of fact.
Dialogue and not a debate. Great, thank you.
Yeah, dialogue and not a debate. That's right, dialogue.
Kristen, I see you have your hand raised. Is there something you'd like to share that you are going to take away?
Yes, I think one of the biggest nuggets for me as a problem solver and as we're entering more of the fundraising stage of our community engagement is looking at the half glass full or empty, but it's not looking at it that way, I should say, but looking at what we do with what's in the glass. So I really love that. And it kind of helps me reframe, not how much money we need to obtain, but like what we already have and how we push that forward.
I like that too.
I do
We'll
too.
Any last thoughts that you guys would like to share? And you can add things to the chat as well.
Heather has her hand raised.
Heather, all right.
Hey,
You're unmuted, Heather.
Okay, good. Apologies for all the children in the background, but yeah, I think it's just reminding yourself of your why and the whole purpose behind the effort. And I think that's probably all I can get out right now before all the crazy noises. But yeah, I think it's just reminding yourself of your why, and maybe it's not just putting a swing in or something else. It's bringing children joy or bringing some team together, or it's offering something for a senior community person and team, just more part of the community and bringing that joy to people in your area.
Okay.
And beyond.
Thank you. And thank you all so much for joining us tonight and for sharing